Chapter 15, Section 1, Conquests in the Americas. In this section, we will describe the results of the first encounters between the Spanish and Native Americans. We will also explain how Cortez and Pizarro gained control of the Aztec and Incan empires, as well as the short and long-term effects of the Spanish on the people of the Americas. In 1492, explorer Christopher Columbus landed in the Caribbean islands that are now called the West Indies. The wave of exploration he spurred in the Americas would have drastic, far-reaching consequences for the people who already lived there.
Christopher Columbus first encountered the Taino people in the West Indies. The Tainos lived in villages and wove cloth out of corn, yams, and cotton. The Tainos were friendly to the Spanish, but the Spanish were harsh in return. Spanish men assaulted the Taino men and women, took their land, and killed anyone that got in the way. Conquistadors that arrived later on would do the same things in the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. The conquistadors also forced Native Americans to pan for gold and to convert to Christianity. There were many more Native Americans than conquistadors, but the conquistadors had more power. While Native Americans had arrows and spears, conquistadors had guns, cannons, metal armor, and horses. Horses were not only helpful in fighting and traveling, but also in frightening the Native Americans, who had never seen horses before. The Europeans also carried diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza, among other things that killed 90% of Native Americans in the 1500s.
Hernan Cortez had heard about Spanish expeditions to Mexico that had all failed due to resisting Indians. He believed that he could succeed getting past these Indians that lived on this land. In 1519, he landed on the coast of Mexico with a crew of 600 men, a team of 16 horses, and a few cannons. He headed towards the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. They met a young Indian girl named Malinche along the way. She knew the languages of both the Aztec and Mayan people, so she would serve as their translator. Malinche told Cortez how the Aztecs were seen as the rulers of the land. She told of the Aztec sacrifices and how thousands of captives were sacrificed to the Aztec gods each year. Many of the conquered people hated the Aztecs and agreed to help Cortez fight them. Malinche helped Cortez form alliances with these groups. Word of the Spanish arrival reached the Aztec capital. Moctezuma, the Aztec emperor and king of Tenochtitlan, feared that Cortez was the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl was the king god who had vowed to return from the east. Moctezuma sent gifts to the arrivals but urged them to turn around and not come all the way to Tenochtitlan. Cortez did not want to turn around, especially because he wanted to see the other riches of the Aztec Empire besides the gold and silver ornaments he kept receiving from the Aztec emperor. Moctezuma eventually welcomed the Spanish into the capital. The Spanish saw that the Aztecs did not follow Christianity, so they wanted to convert them. The Aztecs would not convert, and Cortez saw something much more important than converting them to a new religion. He saw the power that the Aztecs held. The Spanish imprisoned Moctezuma in hopes of gaining control of the Aztecs and their riches. Cortez forced Moctezuma to sign over all his land and wealth to the Spanish. All the while this was happening, more conquistadors arrived in Mexico. A war broke out and the Aztecs drove the Spanish from the capital. This war ended up killing over half of the Spanish troops and Moctezuma. The Spanish may have left, but something far more dangerous remained in the city. When the Spanish landed in Mexico, they brought over diseases that the Aztecs were not yet immune to, such as smallpox. This greatly weakened the people of Tenochtitlan and left them practically defenseless. When Cortez returned in 1521, he and his Indian allies captured and destroyed Tenochtitlan. The Spanish later built Mexico City on top of the ruins of Tenochtitlan.
Cortez's success inspired other adventurers. Among them were Spaniard Francisco Pizarro. Pizarro was born in Churros, Spain in 1476, where as a boy he was a swine handler. This meant he performed tricks with pigs. Coming from an impoverished family, he wanted to seek his fortune in a new world. So in 1513 he joined Vasco Núñez de Balboa in his march to the South Sea, during which Balboa discovered the Pacific Ocean. Pizarro sailed on the ocean and traveled inland on foot and on horseback. He arrived in Peru in 1532 and discovered the Inca Empire, where he conquered it quickly, stealing gold and other treasures. Pizarro was interested in Peru's Inca Empire because it had even more riches than the Aztecs. He arrived in Peru just after the Inca ruler Atahualpa, who won the throne from his brother. Since Atahualpa had refused to become a Spanish vassal or convert to Christianity, Pizarro ordered him to be executed, and therefore slaughtered thousands of Incas. Pizarro and his followers overran the Inca heartland. He had superior weapons while the Incas were weakened by European diseases. Before long, Spain added much of South America to its growing empire, and Pizarro himself was killed by a rival Spanish faction a few years after he established the city of Lima.
In the 1500s and early 1600s, Spanish conquistadors accomplished major victories in the Americas. By using superior weapons, horses, disease, they conquered millions of Native Americans. The Spanish seized huge quantities of valuable goods. They used Native American labor to establish silver mines in Peru and Mexico to finance their new empire. Spain became Europe's greatest power with its wealth. The effect they had on the Native Americans was a lot different. Some felt disasters they suffered marked the world's end. Many Native Americans stopped resisting conversion and began converting to Christianity. Still, some resisted by preserving aspects of their culture, such as language, religious traditions, and clothing. Mayas fought Spanish rule in Mexico and Central America for centuries. By establishing an empire in America, Spain dramatically changed the pattern of global encounters. They set in motion the first European exploration of Africa.